Alright, well, today's video, I want to show you the progress I've made and some of the challenges that I've run into on these Ryan Blaney red and white 2018 customs. So I pre-painted behind here the red, and then I went back and I added in a little bit more red above here, especially here after I sealed it. And then when you put on these pieces here to connect, you know, from here to here, this piece basically that I've got in the water, these pieces don't connect very well. So there's a black line or border that runs from here all the way up to here. And on this car here, I can get a little bit closer. So it comes up here, and this piece here goes from here all the way up to here. Now it's very difficult because you're basically pulling this side decal and this front decal, this headlight decal, and this piece. All four pieces need to align, and they don't, of course. So what I do is I take this piece and I make sure it lines up with this here, because I want this to be this being the nose of the car. I want this to be the piece that aligns the best. Run this over here, and then it comes up short when it lines up here. And so what I do is, and it also didn't butt up against this piece very well. There was a little bit of white showing through. So because this is so thin, I couldn't pre-paint it, and so I needed to go back and touch that up. So I don't know if you can tell on the camera so much, but additional coats of the clear sealer will help mask the difference between the decal and the paint. But that's the way that looks. You can see the headlight. In order to get it to recess within the diecast body, you've got to trim it out, and that's why there's a little bit of non-decal space here, and you've got to paint that. And of course it doesn't line up here. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's kind of messy. But if you look at it farther away, it looks better. When you get up close and you see the decal being short and a couple of gaps in various places, you see it's less than perfect. On this side, you can see same thing. I lined it here, but I had to paint over here because this decal did not butt up against this side decal, and I had to put some red in there. And then I cut a very small sliver of black, and I used that to be a junction between these two pieces, and it looks like I got a little thick. So again, it's less than perfect. Yeah, so that's where this Hawk Performance car is, and I'm just adding coats of clear sealer on it now. One thing I'll do, looking at the pictures, this bottom part is white, so I'll take my white paint pen across there, and the spoiler's black, and the roof lines are black, so I'll leave that black, and this stays white. I'm sorry, I'll leave this white, and this stays white here, and so the only thing that's going to get black is this, and the front will get white after I put a couple more coats of sealer on it. This one, you can see I've already done the white or the black spoiler, and that's basically what I'll do over there as well. This is decaled. It's got doesn't have any coats of clear sealer on it yet, but I'm basically at this point where I'm getting ready to put this piece in that go across here, and I'll show you what happens when you try to put that on, because it's going to show up a little bit short. So let's get this. It's been sitting in water for a minute. Okay. So you can see, we'll get this to line up here on the bottom by the nose. When you bring it over here, it doesn't quite match. On this side. See that? There's a little bit of gap there. And that's about the same length that I had on the other car. And you can see the white that's exposed here that I have to touch up. So if I move that over, I don't get it to line up here. So I have to choose the lesser of two evils here. So I'm going to get that there, get this here, and then let it dry. Okay. So it's sticking over the lip of the nose ever so slightly. So I want to push that in. Then I grab this headlight. Oops. So try to get it to butt up here so this decal connects with this decal. And then get that to stick in there. Once I get most of the water out, I try to get my thumb in there. Yeah. Alright, let's try the other side. So I'll get this to line up here first. And then get the headlight in there. You can see how that's kind of like an inset into the die-cast body. And if I had left it on this front bumper here decal, it would be sitting right here, way low, and it wouldn't match up at all with this piece, not even close. So again, it's kind of the lesser of two evils. I'd rather get it to line up with the body and paint underneath than then yeah, otherwise. So I'll let this dry. I've got red to paint in here and red to paint here. And basically how I do that, it's not perfect. The brush is way too big. But I take this, the bottom tip of my X-Acto knife, and I just run it across here. I've tried to use a paintbrush. It's just too much. Drops too much paint on it. I've tried to use a toothpick. Toothpick is just too wide. It drops too much paint. And so in order to get that, I just get a little bit on there and I just drag it down, and get that paint on there. But that's how I do it basically. I also have these little black pieces to put in to bridge the gap there. That's on there. If you can see that gap on the black border there and there. So how I do that is with the decal set there came this black, I think it actually came on this Rev for Life, Vehicles for Life decal. It came with this black strip, which I don't know if it's for the front bumper, but what I do is I'm just kind of cutting it in half, a little bit less than half, in order to get the right thickness of a black strip that I need to put in there. And so yeah, it's a little bit of trial and error. Some of the first couple ones I cut, they were too thick, so I'm going to try to cut it a little bit thinner this time. Might be too thin, but we'll get it in the water and see. So that's one. Let's see if I can cut another one. Yeah, these aren't very long, nor are they very thick. Alright, that's two. Okay. So kind of keep that around in case I need it. I'll probably also need it on this blue Acela that I'm doing. But yeah, you kind of run into these little problems, and do your best to, I don't want to say mask them, but yeah, to try to cover them. I'll show you one thing that on this car as well that I'm doing. My little pre-painting didn't work all that great, so you can see just maybe it's a little inconsistent in the blue. So there was some decals that came actually for the spoiler that I'm going to use, because the spoiler's not blue, it's actually a black on this car, but I'm going to use the decal spoiler that's blue, and I trimmed it, and I'm going to kind of use it as a bridge here to kind of cover that gap there, so it won't be as noticeable, because there's a big gap on the sides of where these, see that? That's going to look better when I fold the bumper decal over than the paint. So if you can use the decals instead of the paint, that's better. So trying to piece these things together can be a pain, but I think the end product looks better. It's definitely, whenever you have to piece stuff together, it's not going to look perfect, but it's going to, you can do certain degrees of better, like this. So I'm not going all the way down to the bottom there, because I know that this bottom is going to get either a black or a white groove around the front here, so I don't really need to get the decal down there all the way. But I need to get it on there as smoothly as possible with no bubbles. Like so. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a second, and we'll try to put these little black pieces on. Okay. Sometimes it's just so small. You got to bring over the little backing. So it's a little thick, but it's not too bad. It's not too noticeable. I mean, I think it's noticeable. You see that? Try to get it as best you can, you know. You see, trying to bridge that gap there. It's a little thick, but I think it's better than having the gap there. And yeah. So again, you know, you work with what you got. You try to do the best you can with what you have. And some of these cars, it just doesn't end up very, you know, as good as you would like, so to say. But customers are largely happy, you know, with how that works out. And when you compare it to not having that paint scheme altogether, you're willing to live with some imperfection, so to say. All right, so I got this bumper decal to put on, the Acela. See how short that is. Alright, so doing this, I want to get the grill in place. It's kind of the first order of business. Get this front grill in, and then try to get it to wrap around. The grill, you know, obviously I want that centered and level. So try to get that. I usually take the hood pins and line it up with the side, and that looks pretty good. So now that that's done, we'll kind of work our way from the center out. Okay, so now I'll get my thumb in there. And kind of work it around. Now be careful not to move the other decal that we had just put on there. Might move a little bit, but okay. There we go. There was a little wrinkle down there. Let's get rid of it. As you can see, when putting these decals on, it's not, they don't just fall into place. You got to work them, and it's not an easy thing to do. You've got to work them. You've got to, I don't say you've got to move quickly, but you do have to recognize that the decal is in a drying stage. The minute you pull it out of the water and put it on the car, it's starting to dry. And gonna have to work it. Sort of side to side looks pretty good. It's a big number 12 there. Are these the same size? Now you can see the 12 is a little bit bigger on the blue car than it is on the red car. I'm not sure why they have such a large number 12 there, but whatever. So I'm kind of pushing the water from the center out. What do we got there? What happened? Looks like there's going to be a little wrinkle above the 12 there. Get that out if I can. Sometimes right here on the corner of where this comes around, right in this area here and this area here, it likes to ripple or likes to kind of curl because you're folding it around, and that spot, the decal's not as big or not as long up top as it is down at the bottom, and so it tends to buckle a little bit there. You kind of have to work into it. Why my hood or the grill is curling on me. It's one of the reasons also why I would like to do the grill first, because you can see how I'm holding the car. I mean, I'm really holding it all around. And if there were decals over here that I hadn't sealed, they would be shifting and sliding. So, definitely like to do this part first. Most of the other places on the car, you don't have these curves to deal with like you do on this front. Pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to kind of let that sit. And I'll start working some other things as that kind of dries. Take a break altogether. But yeah, these are coming together pretty well. Terry, if you're watching, these are the two cars I'm making for you, and they're coming together okay. As you can see, I've got a little bit of extra kind of work on them, and just to kind of cover up some of those gaps that we have on the red. And but yeah, should be done here in the next day or so, and be shipping them out to you. All right. Hope you guys have a blessed day, staying safe, and as we've moved into the month of June. All right. You all take care. God bless.